What's up, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer from blueandgold.com with our beat writer, Tyler Horka, giving you guys what you want, a Notre Dame quarterback video update. Tyler was at the Blue Gold game last Saturday. Plenty to talk to from that, or about that game. But who didn't play in the game is part of the discussion here, and that was Tyler Buchner, who was tripped going up some stairs or coming down some stairs or something. So a minor little ankle tweak, would have played if it were an actual game, but no reason to play him in mostly meaningless spring game. But after that, we're going to talk about Steve Angeli and Drew Pyne in just a moment, Tyler. But to start, I mean, is it pretty clear to you right now, Tyler, Buchner is the number one quarterback for this team when Ohio State is Notre Dame's opponent in September 3rd?
I would answer yes, but the disclaimer there is he still has to go out and earn this job. The 15 spring practices, 13 of which he actually participated in. There was one after the ankle tweak that he didn't get to suit up for, and then the 15th is the spring game. So 13 spring practices. While everyone says, yeah, he looked pretty good, I think Tommy Rees liked the way he looked, Marcus Freeman liked the way he looked, that's still not enough to win a starting quarterback job. I think everyone went into the spring thinking, yeah, Notre Dame's not going to name a quarterback on April 23rd or the day after the spring game, whatever it would have been. This thing is going to go into the summer. It's going to go into the fall. I think it's going to carry out kind of the way last year's did, in the sense that Jack Cohn wasn't named the starter until 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks before that game against Florida State. It's going to be a similar thing. Maybe even this might go up until the week of the Ohio State game where Tommy Rees and Marcus Freeman say, yeah, he's the starter. Maybe you want to give it a little more of a buffer so everyone knows what you're working with. All of that said, just in terms of what these quarterbacks can do, I mean, it's been written, it's been said. Tyler Buchner's bigger than Drew Pyne. Tyler Buchner's more athletic than Drew Pyne. If you want the quarterback to run a little bit, and Marcus Freeman says this offense is going to be a run-oriented offense, Tyler Buchner gives you that. He's more of a burner than he is a bruiser, but that's an element in and of itself that he can provide that Drew Pyne can't. It's going to come down to the pinpoint accuracy. Can he make the throws? Not just the ones down the field. Everyone is in love with, and they want to get married to, those deep passes down the field. Tyler Buchner's got to hit Michael Mayer for 15 yards when Notre Dame needs 12 on third down. Tyler Buchner's got to hit Lorenzo Styles coming across the middle of the field. I think those are the throws that you're going to see Tyler Buchner has really, really practiced on. And if he can hit those, he's Notre Dame's starting quarterback.
So last season, and make sure you guys hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our channel if you have not yet. $1 for 1 year premium access over at blueandgold.com. Don't miss that deal. This is definitely time to sign up before it's gone. Notre Dame played 3 quarterbacks last year. Obviously Jack Cohn took the lion's share of the reps, but then Drew Pyne kind of came in reliever duties against Cincinnati and Wisconsin, and you had Buchner not play against Florida State in the opener, and then played a huge role against Toledo out of the blue the next week, and played big role against Virginia Tech, and it was just kind of sprinkled all in throughout the season. And all these guys got to be ready. It's kind of my point here. So, I mean, you look at the backup battle now, and I guess it's a battle. At least some Notre Dame fans are thinking Steve Angeli, should be the number 2 guy. He had a strong outing in the spring game. He was a lot of dink and dunks, and he had the awesome play at the end there. But look, I'm the biggest Steve Angeli fan out there, and I'm not on this bandwagon that he should be the number 2 guy. I mean, I think we know a lot more about Drew Pyne, and he's got a lot more experience. That if Buchner were to go down, that Pyne should be the number 2 guy. I'm assuming again Buchner is QB1, and again this is coming from a huge Angeli supporter. Where do you stand on that, Tyler?
I put way more stock in what Drew Pyne did against Wisconsin, what he did against Cincinnati, than what he did in this blue gold game. I wrote about it extensively at blueandgold.com. You should go check out those articles. This thing wasn't really set up for a quarterback to succeed because he's kind of flopping back and forth. One, he's not getting any rest. And look, it's only one half of football. Athlete at this level should be able to do that. But it's kind of hard when it's repeated and he's always out there. And I saw him multiple times go to the sideline and he had to remember, wait, no, I've got to go back out there for the blue team. Wait, no, it's time for the gold team. That's kind of hard. And then the mixing and matching of the offensive lines and the wide receivers, you can make what you want about that. But what I did see last year was Drew Pyne come in against Wisconsin and throw a touchdown pass to Kevin Austin Jr. I saw him throw a touchdown pass to Braden Lenzy against Cincinnati. Notre Dame was losing that game by multiple scores. Drew Pyne scored a couple touchdown drives in that game to make it at least a little competitive in the second half. So that is the essence of a backup quarterback to me, is when the starter does go down for whatever reason, or when the starter needs to be replaced because he's not very effective, the backup can come in and maybe provide a spark, or maybe provide something that the starter wasn't at that time. So for me right now, Drew Pyne's the number 2 quarterback. We're getting way over our skis saying Steve Angeli is already the backup. But look, I did see it can go both ways. I did see some things in that blue gold game that makes me believe at some point Steve Angeli might have a chance to, start football games from Notre Dame, let alone be the number 2 guy. So it goes both ways. Right now, the pecking order is Buchner, Pyne, Angeli.
Listen, Notre Dame fans, before you type in, you probably already have, before you type in those angry comments, just remember, spring game is really not that important. Like, it does not carry that much weight. I can guarantee you that the 14 practices before the spring game, the Notre Dame coaches put a lot more stock into those. But then think about actual football games against Cincinnati, college football playoff team, Wisconsin, a top 25 team that the Irish, and Drew Pyne looked good in those outings. Like, so let's just take a deep breath before we freak out. And I know we're already there, but hey, we've had 5 days of reflection. Pyne is not god awful. He can play at this level, but I do think that he is better served as a backup for this football team. The bigger question for me is, can Buchner consistently deliver the football in that 15 to 25 yard range like you talked about, Tyler? Because if he can throw the football down the field in the intermediate range, and then then getting into some of those bombs to Braden Lenzy, then Notre Dame's in a really good spot. You do have a running quarterback. He can get hurt. Then if that were to happen, you got a really good number 2, in my opinion, Drew Pyne. But if Buchner does not take a big step throwing the football, Tyler, I don't know, man. I think we're going to see a 2 QB system in that case. Am I crazy?
No, you're not. And that's where I'm at with Buchner and Pyne, is that the sample size is still pretty small with Pyne. We only saw him in those 2 games last year. Before that, 2020, it was all mop-up duty,
Yep.
right? And I know he got the 1 snap against Alabama because I think Ian Book's helmet came off or whatever it was. But we haven't really seen a lot of Drew Pyne on the football field. But that said, we've seen him in practices. We saw him in the blue gold game. We kind of know that there's a ceiling there, and the arm talent isn't, Dante Moore, some of these 5-star quarterbacks that Notre Dame's looking at right now. That's why they want those guys, because those guys have that arm talent. Drew Pyne, not necessarily there with him. That's the thing with Buchner, though. If this competition is really close and bleeds into the fall, and Notre Dame still doesn't know, like, if Tyler Buchner is the guy, then Notre Dame's going to have a little bit of a problem there, because we know what Drew Pyne can do. We know what he can't do. If Tyler Buchner is not that much better than Drew Pyne, it could be a long season offensively. And I think that's why Marcus Freeman has said Notre Dame needs to run the football, because there's some really good running backs. There's some really good offensive linemen. That's probably going to end up being the identity of this team. That plus get the ball to Michael Mayer.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you have some experience at receiver too with Braden Lenzy, Joe Wilkins. Like it's not a deep receiver core, but definitely some talent there. You got great stable of running backs. I mean, heck, you're potentially your number 4 back, Jadarian Price. He's one. He would be the best number 4 back in the country, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Great offensive line. So yeah, there's definitely some pieces to help that quarterback. And I'll also add, it's not like we've seen a ton of Tyler Buchner either. Like, yeah, he played a good bit last year, but still don't really know. Like, he was kind of used as a wildcat quarterback, essentially. Except like that Virginia Tech game, he was just used as a quarterback for for most of the game. But last note, Angeli, though, don't want to discredit him. I'll give you guys a quick hint. If you're still 10 minutes in this video, I'm going to write an article on Friday for freshman early enrollees that sources tell me on the Notre Dame side of things that look really good. Angeli will be one of them. What did you see? You guys got, what, 4 practices, at least partial availability. Yeah, I don't want to sleep on Angeli. I'm a big Angeli fan. Like, he can play some quarterback.
I think everybody at the Blue Gold game saw what I initially saw when I walked into the IAC for that first practice. I was like, well, this guy looks the part. I haven't even seen him throw a football yet. And I'm like, that guy looks like he could play quarterback at this level right now. And he's supposed to be in high school right now. So I think he's going to get even more filled out. As in terms of how he throws the football, he looks the part in that regard too. The ball comes out of his hand really smoothly. Looks like he throws a crisp ball, a tight spiral, and all those things are, it doesn't matter if how tight you throw a spiral if it doesn't get into the wide receiver's hands and the offense doesn't score points, right? But there is something to those little things that if he's already doing them and those things already look good, I think he's only going to get better. The competition is always going to be there too. Look, there's 2 guys ahead of him who are really battling for this, and he gets to watch that. He gets to learn from what that's like. So I mentioned those 5-star quarterbacks that Notre Dame is after. They bring one of those guys in. He knows, okay, now I'm battling that guy, and this guy might have more talent than me, but I've been here and I know what it looks like, and I know what these 2 guys, Buchner and Pyne, are trying to do to get onto the field. I'm going to do those same things, and I'm going to take it a step further. I think this guy's competitive too. We got to talk to him, and I know you've talked to him and his family plenty of times, but the one time that I got to talk to him, I was like, this guy gets it. He wants to be here. Not only does he want to be here, he wants to start. He wants to play football for Notre Dame. So I think he's a guy that a lot of people might have written off too early just because they're already looking at these next classes. Who can Notre Dame get there? It's one of those things. Don't be blind to what's right in front of you, because I think Notre Dame has a really good one in Angeli, and he's going to be here for a while.
This is music to my ears, Tyler. I'm a very happy camper right now. All right, folks, make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. Great stuff there from Tyler Horka. You can get so much more insight from Tyler over at blueandgold.com and our loose emoji message board and all of his articles. Appreciate you guys. Hit the thumbs up, and we'll catch you next time.